Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm Giorgio Chini, Cloud Solution Architect focusing on Copilot Studio. Today, I will guide you through how to integrate a Copilot Studio agent directly into SharePoint. So let's begin by outlining the main topic. So suppose your organization has already built a Copilot Studio agent, so already built in Copilot Studio. You would like your user to interact with this agent directly on SharePoint site. So you might already be aware of the fact that Copilot Studio allows you to deploy your agent to many channels, including Teams and including SharePoint. So natively, out of the box, you can deploy a Copilot Studio agent into SharePoint. So how do we deploy our agent to SharePoint in the native way? So we are in Copilot Studio. We are in the channel section. We navigated there. Here you will notice the SharePoint button. So we click on the SharePoint button. By clicking this, you can select which SharePoint sites you would like to deploy your agent to. In this example, I'm selecting Giorgio Custom SharePoint site. Initially, you will see the agent as not yet deployed, but if you simply click on the deploy button, you will see that the agent becomes deployed. And that means that the agent is now available directly within the selected SharePoint site. The process, as you can see, was straightforward. It was smooth, very, very quick, and fully supported natively out of the box by Copilot Studio. Now, once the deployment is complete, let's see what the user experience is. So let's go in SharePoint. And in SharePoint, your user can click the Copilot icon, so that the one located in the top right corner in the screen, and they open the sidebar that contains all the agents. And as seen, you have the custom SharePoint sites agent in this case, which is the one approved by the administrator and so on. But now we have also the restaurant agent, which is the agent we just deployed in the previous slide. So this screenshot demo has shown you in 2 minutes, I guess, how to leverage the native SharePoint deployment with Copilot Studio. But why are we here discussing this today? Why am I start talking in a few while about an alternative methods of this integration? Let's take a look at the prerequisites of this approach. So to perform this procedure, you must have write access to the SharePoint sites. Okay, so that's understandable. Last one, so skipping the second, last one. The agent follows Copilot Studio billing policies and consumes Copilot Studio capacity. Also a fair point. Okay, we're fine. Let's now focus on the second. The second says, to use a Copilot Studio agent in SharePoint, your end user, for your end user, one of the following must be true. Either they own an M365 Copilot license, or the SharePoint pay-as-you-go is activated in the Mac, and there is enough capacity to pay for your agents. So this deployment method, the native one, might face challenges in the organization, such organization in which there is no site license for M365 Copilot. So not all the users have an M365 Copilot license. So if some users are missing this license, you must enable the SharePoint pay-as-you-go option. But not all organization wants to do that, especially because enabling SharePoint pay-as-you-go is primarily for the sake of this Copilot Studio agent deployment, is primarily a user interface trigger. Once it's enabled, the Copilot button in the top right corner becomes visible, and your user will be allowed to click on it and to see the Copilot Studio side, the Copilot pane, in which they see also the Copilot Studio agent. So that's primarily a user interface trigger in order to allow the Copilot icon in the top right to appear. Once the icon is there, then you will follow the same Copilot Studio billing and regulation and rules, right? But if the user does not have either the M365 and nor the pay-as-you-go activated in their tenant, then they are prevented from using the agent, even if that agent is deployed. So today, I want to introduce a custom component, a custom SPFx that myself and a person from PowerCat, with another team within Microsoft, created to overcome this limitation for that organization that faced themselves in that challenge. This component enables basically the agent directly to be used into SharePoint. even if not all the users are licensed with the M365 Copilot license, and even if there is no SharePoint pay-as-you-go agent activated. So the sidebar that you see in the slide is rendered directly into SharePoint and displays the Copilot Studio web chat experience. It uses a single sign-on, so users don't need to sign in again. Okay, of course. And their authentication happens with Microsoft Entra ID. And even in Copilot Studio, the setting is the main, the normal login with authenticate with Microsoft option. This allows the agent to use features like the graph grounding, for example, which was prevented if you were to use a custom authentication method. And of course, that gives you more relevant responses. And as you can see also in the sidebar, we are using Fluent UI, giving the same look and feel of Microsoft 365 applications. And we also introduced a button in the top right corner, which allows you to start a new conversation without leaving the current page. And it is also an application customizer, so it's grounded to the website and it stays there even while you navigate. From a technical perspective, our integration relies on the M365 Agent SDK. So as said also by Aika previously, this SDK is basically the evolution of the bot framework, provides a lot of capabilities, some of those highlighted by Aika before. But in our case, we want to focus on Copilot Studio. So we want to establish a connection from SharePoint to Copilot Studio, enabling the communication and the chat functionality, the activity exchange within SharePoint, the SharePoint framework, of course, and Copilot Studio engine. Specifically, the left-hand repository on GitHub is the main agent SDK, while the one on the right is the JavaScript version, which is the version that we used, as it's the best one for a SharePoint framework component development. That said, it's time for a demo. So let's switch on our Visual Studio Code. This is our repository being cloned. I will share with you the link at the last slide. I want to comment just 4 files. One of these is acquire token, which is the file that is in charge of acquiring the token for the single sign-on. It contains only one function, acquire token, and it sets the redirect URI as the redirect URI contained into the of the SharePoint site. Also, it sets as a scope, Power Platform scope, default scope, because we need to connect to Power Platform in order to trigger our agent, and that's basically it. It triggers the acquire token silent by using MSL, the authentication library of Microsoft. If that fails, for whatever reason, it will switch back to the SSO silent. But if this fails again, because maybe the refresh token is expired or whatever reason, then the only option for us would be to go with the login pop-up, so the login interactive pop-up, which might also auto-close if there is already a user logged in. And that's it. So this module returns the token. Now a quick look also to the application customizer itself. We have the application customizer sidebar. You see that there are a few components. There is the on-panel DME, so toggle panel, so the opening, the closing, the start new conversation. So a lot of some features right here. But I want to show you a few styling. I want to show you that we are rendering the Copilot icon, line 106, which is basically what prevents us from using the main native deployment option. So we are rendering a new Copilot icon that we styled as the Copilot Studio icon in the top right, in the header of our SharePoint site. And we are also rendering the side panel with all the properties populated. Then the main logic is contained in the chat.tsx component, which is the component that handles the chat, basically. So we initialize the connection by acquiring the token. So we acquire the token with the acquire token function that you saw earlier. Once you have the token, we initialize a connection setting object, line 55, in which we set the application registration as well as the agent, because you need to give a link to the agent you want to connect to. So you can either use the environment ID and agent identifier, or directly the direct connect URL. Once you have the settings and the token, you're ready to do this call right here. So instantiate a new Copilot Studio client object, which is the object, the client, which allows you to communicate with Copilot Studio. Once you have this object that we call the client, we can call Copilot Studio web chat.createConnection and give to them the client itself. The Copilot Studio web chat object is an object provided by the SDK itself, which renders the UI, the beautiful UI. So we did not do that beautiful UI. How to configure our parameters such as the app registration and so on in the elements.xml, of course. So you have the space for the client ID, tenant ID, environment ID, and whatever. You can also customize the title, the background color, and a few other styling options. So let me now debug it. So we are running a gulp serve no browser because I will need to use another browser. And let's verify just that this starts. In the meanwhile, I can show you the agent that we are going to use. This is the restaurant agent. I want you to notice that we created a specific topic to verify, to validate the authentication. So the who am I topic, which is a topic triggered just to verify who am I, and it's returning basically system.user.displayname and a few other variables that are populated only on authenticated scenarios, like the user.language. Let's also verify that this agent is authenticated using Microsoft, which is the main feature. It's super cool, the fact that we're using Authenticate with Microsoft, and you don't need to use any app registration for custom authentication or whatever. And in fact, our agent is using the native, the default setting, Authenticate with Microsoft, right? So that is our SharePoint site. It's using the red theme, the default theme. Let's switch back to Visual Studio Code to see if it's finished compiling. Not yet, so we need to take a few more while. This is our SharePoint sites. One cool feature of the component, as soon as I managed to show you, is the fact that if we go in the settings and we change the look and feel of the site, and we, for example, change the theme from a red one to a blue one or to a teal one, the agent will follow automatically the styling option configured for your website. And this is super, super cool. Now, let's verify if finally Visual Studio Code finished. Good. Not yet. But maybe we can try to see if it's cached. So we need to provide in the URL all the parameters for the connection, because since this is a debugging scenario, we cannot use the elements.xml file because the XML is not bundled into the manifest itself. And since we are debugging, we provide the manifest, which is the output from gulp serve, and we need to provide, of course, the various options. Okay, this means that the manifest may be there, and it asking us if we want to load the debug script. This is of course safe because we are debugging. Of course, in a production setting, this will not happen because it's not a debug manifest. Now we immediately verify that in the top right header, we see the new icon, the Copilot Studio new icon. And if we manage to click on it, immediately, that there is not even the time to see the login, you are authenticated. And in fact, if I ask who am I can immediately verify that I am recognized as Giorgio Ghini, and my default language is English, and so on and so forth, using this UI. And if I want to go in the top right corner right here, there is the button to start a new conversation, and you see that a new conversation is starting. Now, this is the component itself. So as soon as the new, okay, here we are with the new conversation being started. Now it's time to wrap up. So you can find the solution I showed you in the PowerCat sample library on GitHub, specifically under the SharePoint SSO app customizer project. So let's summarize. This approach allows users to interact with a Copilot Studio agent published with Authenticate with Microsoft, even if they lack the M265 Copilot license and your organization does not allow the SharePoint pay-as-you-go. Of course, you will still need to pay for it, okay? So you will still need to consume your Copilot Studio messages, but at least you don't need those prerequisites for the UI rendering of the Copilot icon. The main prerequisites are having an app registration with the Copilot Studio.copilots.invoke permission and setting the SharePoint site's URL as a redirect URI into the app registration itself. And finally, of course, an admin, SharePoint admin of the site must approve the solution to deploy to the SharePoint site. This is the end of the demo. So sample code and instructions are available in the link in the bottom left corner. And so thank you for your attention. And back to you, Vesa.